Have you ever noticed how strange it feels to truly let yourself celebrate? To feel joy rising inside you, but then almost immediately catch yourself holding it back? Maybe you've had a big accomplishment. Maybe you created something you're proud of. Maybe you simply had a moment where you thought, I'm happy with who I am today. And then, without even thinking, you quieted it down. You laughed it off. You told yourself, it's not a big deal. Or maybe you didn't share it with anyone at all. Because somewhere deep down, there's a voice whispering, don't be too proud. Don't get carried away. Don't show too much. Think about how often that happens in everyday life. Someone compliments your work, and instead of saying, thank you, you point out what could have been better. You finish a project, but before you even pause to appreciate it, you rush to the next task. You feel joy, but a shadow of guilt or self-doubt creeps in and says, keep it down. Where does that voice come from? Most of the time, it goes back to our childhood. Many of us learned at a young age that joy and pride were not safe to show. Maybe we were told not to brag, not to show off. Maybe our excitement was met with a sigh, a harsh word, or even just silence. Over time, those small moments pile up, and slowly they teach us something dangerous, that our joy is too much, that our pride doesn't belong, that if we shine too brightly, we'll be judged, rejected, or ignored. The truth is, what we learned in those moments was not about us. It was about the limitations of the people around us. But as children, we didn't know that. As children, we believed the message, and we carried it inside. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And isn't that true? Because to fully accept ourselves means to accept not just our flaws, not just our struggles, but also our joy, our creativity, our pride, the very parts of ourselves that make us shine. But here's the paradox. The very things we bury to feel safe are often the things that make life meaningful. Joy is not something extra. It's life's natural rhythm. Pride is not arrogance. It's the recognition of growth, of becoming. And when those parts are buried, we feel disconnected. We feel smaller than we truly are. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you thought back to your life and realized that the most joyful memories were also the simplest ones? Running outside without caring who was watching. Creating something and feeling excited to share it. Laughing so loudly you forgot to feel self-conscious. Those moments were pure. They were unfiltered. They were you. And if you're listening to this now, maybe a part of you knows that you've lost touch with that version of yourself. The child who didn't apologize for shining. The child who felt free to celebrate. The child who didn't think twice before saying, "Look at what I did." But here's the hope. That child is not gone. That part of you is still alive, waiting for permission to return. Before we move forward, I want to invite you to pause with me. Just take a deep breath in and a slow breath out. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself as a child, any age that comes naturally. See yourself in a moment of joy, maybe holding something you created, maybe laughing, maybe just feeling free. Notice the brightness in your eyes, the energy in your body. Now imagine kneeling down to meet that child. Place a gentle hand on their shoulder and tell them, "Your joy is safe with me. Your pride is welcome here. I see you." Stay with that image for a moment and just notice how it feels. When you're ready, open your eyes again, or simply return your focus here. Remember, that child is still within you, still waiting for encouragement, still waiting for permission to shine. Today, we're going to walk through how to give that permission. We're going to talk about how to reclaim the pride you were denied, how to uncover the hidden messages that told you to hide your joy, and how to lovingly bring that lost part of you back into the light. Because this is not just about pride. This is about wholeness. This is about learning how to stop apologizing for existing. This is about reclaiming the pieces of yourself that were left behind, so you can finally step into a life that feels full and alive. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And part of becoming who you truly are means daring to celebrate yourself without shame, daring to stand in your joy without shrinking, daring to say, "I am proud of who I am becoming." So let's begin. Chapter 1. The Roots of Denied Pride. Let's go back to where it began. When we were children, joy was natural. We didn't need permission to laugh, to sing, to run wildly across the yard, to proudly hold up something we had made. If you think about it, children don't ask themselves, "Am I allowed to feel proud?" They just feel it. They beam with excitement. They say, "Look what I did," without hesitation. But for many of us, those moments of natural joy and pride were not always met with the support we needed. Maybe someone told you to quiet down. Maybe they said, "Don't brag." Maybe your excitement was ignored altogether. And while those words or silences might seem small to an adult, to a child, they mean everything. As children, we are deeply impressionable. We are looking around constantly, asking, "Am I safe? Am I accepted? Is it okay for me to be who I am?" When our joy is dismissed or mocked, we don't think, "That person couldn't handle my energy." Instead, we think, "Something about me is wrong." Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." Think about that. When adults around us could not hold space for our joy, it often had little to do with us. It was about their own wounds, their own discomfort, their own inability to express joy freely. But as children, we didn't know this. We carried the burden. We internalized the message. And over time, that message becomes a kind of silent rule. Don't shine too much. Don't draw too much attention. Don't celebrate yourself. These rules sink in deeply. They move underground into what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the parts of ourselves that we learned to hide in order to stay safe or accepted. For many of us, joy and pride ended up in that shadow. And when they did, we lost a piece of our natural self. I want you to pause for a moment and think back. What is your earliest memory of feeling proud of yourself? It doesn't need to be something huge. It could be a drawing you made, a story you told, a small achievement. Now ask yourself, what happened in that moment? Did someone encourage you? Did they dismiss you? Did they ignore you? That memory may hold a clue to the exact moment you began to believe it wasn't safe to shine. For some, there might not be one single memory, but a pattern, a repeated sense of being told to stay small. That, too, is important to notice. And here's why this matters. If your joy was rejected enough times, you began to reject it yourself. You learned to hide it before anyone else could. You learned to shut it down before it could be taken from you. That is where the denial of pride begins, as a survival strategy. But the strategy has a cost. Because hiding joy doesn't only protect us from judgment, it also cuts us off from the very energy that gives us life. Carl Jung also said, "What we deny inwardly, we meet as fate." If we deny pride and joy, they don't disappear. They reappear later in our lives as emptiness, as envy, as bitterness, as a sense that something is missing. And the truth is, it is missing. The missing piece is your own light. Here's something simple you can try. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, write, "Moments I felt proud as a child." On the other, write, "The response I received." Be honest. See if a pattern appears. Were your proud moments consistently met with criticism, teasing, or silence? or were they sometimes supported? Noticing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. And if this feels tender, that's okay. That tenderness is proof that this part of you is still alive. It's proof that your inner child is still waiting to be acknowledged. So here's the truth I want you to take in. The problem was never your joy. The problem was never your pride. The problem was that others didn't know how to hold it. But you can learn how to hold it now. Because joy and pride were never flaws. They were always your birthright. Chapter 2. The hidden cost of suppressing joy. So what happens when we grow up learning that our joy and pride are unsafe? At first, it may not even be obvious. You go about your life, achieving things, meeting expectations, moving forward. On the outside, everything seems fine. But on the inside, something feels muted. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to simply say, "I'm proud of myself," without quickly adding a disclaimer? You might say, "I did well, but it wasn't that big of a deal." Or maybe when someone compliments you, you instantly deflect, pointing out the flaws, the mistakes, the things that weren't perfect. This constant downplaying is not humility. It's self-protection. It's the adult version of silencing the child inside you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Think about that in this context. If we unconsciously suppress joy, we end up living lives where pride feels foreign, joy feels fleeting, and success never feels like enough. And then we tell ourselves, "That's just who I am." But it isn't. It's the unconscious rule book we inherited as children, still running our lives without us even realizing. The cost of this is heavy. When you bury your joy long enough, life begins to feel flat. You might achieve things, but never feel satisfied. You might set goals, but struggle to celebrate when you reach them. You might even look at other people's joy and feel envy, not because you don't want them to be happy, but because a part of you aches for what you've lost in yourself. Ask yourself, how do I respond when something good happens in my life? Do I allow myself to celebrate? Or do I downplay it, rush past it, or keep it private? Notice your patterns here. They are clues. And here's the truth. Suppressing joy doesn't only affect your inner world. It also shapes the way you move through the outer world. When joy is hidden, creativity shrinks. When pride is denied, confidence fades. When celebration is silenced, connection with others becomes harder, because you're always holding a piece of yourself back. Jung described this as fragmentation, the splitting off of parts of ourselves that don't feel safe. And every time we bury our joy, we fragment further. We walk around as partial versions of ourselves, wondering why life feels incomplete. Here's something practical you can try this week. Each day, write down one small thing you're proud of. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. It could be making a meal, completing a task, having a kind conversation, or simply getting through a difficult day. The challenge is this: when you write it, don't downplay it. Don't add "but" or "it's nothing." Let it stand on its own. Say out loud, "I am proud of this." Notice how your body reacts. Do you feel tension? Do you feel resistance? That's the voice of old conditioning. But the more you practice, the softer that voice becomes. Carl Jung also said, "What we resist persists." If you resist your joy, it doesn't disappear. It lingers as frustration, as longing, as a quiet sense that life is passing you by. But if you turn toward it, even gently, even a little at a time, you begin to reclaim a part of yourself that has been waiting for years. And here's something powerful to remember. Joy is not a luxury. Pride is not arrogance. These are natural states of being. They are signals from within that you are aligned with your true self. When you strip them away, you lose access to vitality itself. So the cost of suppressing joy is not just the absence of happiness. It is the loss of connection to your own life force. But here's the hope. What was buried can be uncovered. What was silenced can be given voice again. And what was denied can finally be reclaimed. Chapter 3. Reclaiming what was lost. Up to now, we've looked at where the denial of pride begins and what it costs us. But the most important part of this journey is the return. The return to the child inside you. The return to your joy. The return to the pride that was always yours. Carl Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That choice begins when we decide to stop living under the old rules we inherited and start creating new ones. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that the past told you to hide. So how do we do this? How do we reclaim what was lost? Let's walk through it step by step. Step 1. Awareness. The very first step is simply noticing when you hide your joy. This sounds small, but it is powerful. Pay attention to the moments when you achieve something, or feel happy, or want to share good news. What happens next? Do you silence yourself? Do you feel shame? Do you laugh it off? The key is not to judge yourself, just notice. Because every time you notice, you bring something unconscious into the light. And Jung reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This week, keep a small notebook or use your phone to jot down the exact moments you feel proud, or would have felt proud if you allowed yourself. What triggered the pride? And what did you do with it? Did you celebrate, or did you hide? Step 2. Dialogue with your inner child. The part of you that hides joy is often still that young child who was told not to shine. So healing means creating a new dialogue. Set aside a quiet moment. Picture yourself as a child again. Maybe you're holding up a drawing, or showing someone what you built, or just glowing with excitement. Now, imagine yourself as the adult you are today, kneeling beside that child. Say the words you wish you had heard back then. I'm so proud of you. Your joy matters. It's safe to shine. Write a letter to your younger self. In the letter, celebrate them. Name the things you love about their joy, their creativity, their uniqueness. Keep the letter where you can read it often, especially when you feel tempted to hide yourself again. Step 3. Safe celebration. Healing doesn't mean suddenly shouting your achievements from the rooftops. It begins small. Share a win with one trusted person. Pause after finishing something meaningful and actually say, I'm proud of this. Take a moment to smile when you notice you've grown in some way. Over time, these small celebrations rebuild the inner muscles of pride that have been neglected. Each night, write down one thing you're proud of from that day. Then, before you sleep, read it out loud. Even if no one else hears it, let your own body and mind hear it. This practice retrains you to make pride safe again. Step 4. Reparenting yourself with kindness. The old voice, the one that says, don't brag or stay small, will still show up. But now, you have a choice. When that voice speaks, you can gently replace it with a kinder one. Imagine yourself as both the parent and the child. When the child says, I feel proud, answer back as the loving parent, I'm glad you do. That's wonderful. You're allowed to feel that Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating the parts of ourselves we once rejected. When you reclaim your pride, you are not becoming arrogant. You are becoming whole. You are balancing the parts of yourself that were split apart. Ask yourself, if I no longer had to hide my joy, how would my life feel different? What would I dare to do? Who would I allow myself to become? Step 5. Practice joy without a reason. This one may feel uncomfortable at first. Set aside time to feel joy just because. Play music and dance around. Laugh at something silly. Create without worrying if it's good. Let yourself enjoy something without needing it to be productive. Because joy that is free of conditions is joy that heals. Carl Jung once said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct." Joy is not just emotional. It is creative. When you allow it back into your life, it fuels growth in ways logic never could. And here's the most important part. Healing is not about going back to who you were before the wound. It's about becoming someone new. Someone who carries both the wisdom of experience and the freedom of joy. So as you take these steps, be gentle with yourself. This isn't about forcing pride. It's about slowly, lovingly, giving it room to breathe again. Chapter 4. From Wound to Wisdom. So what happens when you begin to reclaim the pride you were denied? At first, it may feel awkward, even uncomfortable. You may catch yourself hesitating, waiting for someone to dismiss you. But slowly, something begins to shift. You start to notice energy returning to your life. You begin to feel less fragmented, more whole. Because when you welcome your joy back, you are not just recovering a feeling. You are restoring a part of yourself that was exiled. You are bringing home the child who was told to hide. You are saying, "It's safe now. You belong here." Carl Jung wrote, "In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves. That other self is the joyful one, the one who laughs without shame, the one who creates without fear, the one who celebrates without apology. When you reclaim your pride, you meet that other self, and you realize they were never gone, only waiting. And here's the beautiful paradox. The very wound that once silenced you can become your greatest source of wisdom. Because, having lived without pride, you know its value. Having felt the absence of joy, you know its necessity. Having carried the burden of shame, you know the freedom that comes when it's lifted. Ask yourself, what has my wound taught me? What strength have I gained from navigating a life where pride was denied? Maybe it's empathy. Maybe it's resilience. Maybe it's the courage to begin this very journey of healing. Whatever it is, honor it. This is your wisdom, born from your pain. I want you to try something simple but powerful. Stand in front of a mirror, look into your own eyes, and say out loud, "I am proud of who I am becoming." Notice what feelings come up. Maybe you feel strong. Maybe you feel resistance. Maybe you even feel tears. Whatever arises, let it be there. This practice is about building a new relationship with yourself, one where pride is safe, one where joy is honored. Carl Jung also said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And part of becoming who you truly are means allowing yourself to live fully, not half alive, not muted, not hidden, fully. That includes your joy. That includes your pride. That includes the parts of you that once felt too dangerous to show. Imagine what your life could feel like if you no longer silenced yourself. If you allowed yourself to celebrate even the small moments. If you trusted your joy as much as you trust your pain. What would you create? Who would you inspire? How would it feel to finally live as the whole version of yourself? The truth is, you don't have to imagine. You can begin today. With every small act of honoring your pride, with every moment you let your joy breathe, you are rewriting the story. You are transforming your wound into wisdom. So here's my invitation as we close. Choose one moment today, just one, to celebrate yourself. It doesn't matter how small it is. Pause, acknowledge it, and say, "I'm proud of this." Let that be your first step into a new story, because you no longer have to hide your joy. You no longer have to silence your pride. The child within you is waiting, and you have the power to finally set them free. And when you do, you'll discover that your joy is not only safe, it's essential. It's the missing piece that makes you whole. Chapter 5. The Language of Shame versus the Language of Pride. Let's talk about language, because the way we speak, especially the way we speak about ourselves, reveals so much about the hidden rules we live by. Think for a moment about how you respond when someone gives you a compliment. Do you say, "Thank you," and let it land? Or do you quickly brush it off with, "Oh, it's nothing. I just got lucky. It's not that big of a deal"? Those little words may seem harmless, but they are not. They are the language of shame. They are the leftover phrases we learned as children when we were told it was unsafe to be proud. Every time you say, "It's nothing," you repeat the old message. My joy doesn't matter. My pride doesn't belong. Carl Jung once said, "Words are animals, alive with a soul." And he was right. The words you use about yourself don't just pass through the air. They shape the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the way you live. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine saying instead, "Thank you. I worked hard on this." Or, "Yes, I am proud of this." These are simple phrases, but they carry an entirely different energy. They are the language of pride. They are the voice of someone who has decided not to shrink anymore. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what phrases do I use most often when I talk about my own achievements? Do I say things like, I was lucky, or it wasn't much? Or do I allow myself to say, I'm proud of myself? Write down the phrases you catch yourself using most. Take one of your old shame phrases and rewrite it as a pride phrase. For example, instead of, it was nothing, say, it mattered to me. Instead of, I just got lucky, say, I showed up fully. Instead of, I'm not that good, say, I'm proud of how far I've come. Practice saying these new phrases out loud. Notice how it feels in your body. At first, it might feel strange, even uncomfortable. But that discomfort is just proof that you're stepping outside the old rule book. Carl Jung reminded us, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. And in this case, speaking pride out loud is something you do. It's an action. It's a choice to change the story you've been living in. Because the truth is, every time you choose the language of pride instead of the language of shame, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You send a signal to your inner child that says, your joy is safe here. Your pride belongs here. Language is not just communication, it's creation. And when you change your words, you change your world. Chapter 6. Creating Rituals of Joy. One of the most powerful ways to reclaim your joy is to make space for it intentionally. Not just waiting for joy to appear on its own, but creating rituals that invite it into your daily life. Because healing doesn't just happen in big moments of breakthrough. It happens in the quiet, consistent practices that remind your body and mind that joy is safe. Carl Jung once wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct." Rituals of joy don't need to be complicated. They need to be playful, consistent, and meaningful to you. Think of them as anchors, small, repeatable acts that root joy into your everyday rhythm. Ritual 1. A pride journal. Each evening, take a few minutes to write down one thing you feel proud of from that day. It could be something small, like making a healthy choice, finishing a task, or showing kindness. It doesn't matter how simple it seems. What matters is that you name it. Over time, this journal becomes proof that pride belongs in your life. Tonight, before you go to bed, write down just one line. Today, I am proud of. And finish the sentence. If resistance shows up, that's normal. Write it anyway. Ritual 2. A celebration. pause. We rush through life so quickly that even when something good happens, we often skip over it. So practice pausing. When you finish something meaningful, stop for 60 seconds. Put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath, and say, "I'm proud of this." That pause tells your nervous system, joy is allowed here. Ritual 3. A joy marker. Pick a small object, maybe a stone, a charm, or a piece of paper that you carry with you. Every time you notice it, use it as a reminder to check in with yourself. What can I celebrate right now? This physical anchor helps retrain your mind to look for joy throughout the day. Ritual 4. Weekly reflection. Once a week, create a short ritual of review. Light a candle, sit quietly, and read back through your journal entries or recall moments of joy from the week. Let yourself smile. Let yourself relive those moments. This simple ritual transforms joy from a fleeting feeling into a lived practice. Carl Jung also said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." But here's the other side of that truth. Once we bring pain into the light, we also open ourselves to joy. And rituals are how we make sure joy doesn't slip away again. Ask yourself, what small ritual could I start today that would help me honor my pride and joy? Remember, it doesn't have to be big. Sometimes the simplest rituals are the ones that change us most. Because here's the deeper truth. Rituals tell your inner child, "I will not forget you again. I will keep showing up for your joy, day after day." And that is how healing takes root. Not just as an idea, but as a lived reality. Chapter 7. The role of play in healing. When was the last time you played? Really played. Not for productivity, not to achieve anything, but simply for the delight of it. For many of us, it has been years. Somewhere along the way, play became something childish, something we had to grow out of. And yet, play is one of the most direct ways back to the joy we were told to hide. Carl Jung once said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct." He understood that play is not a luxury. It is an essential doorway to creativity, to self-expression, and to healing. Think about children at play. They don't judge themselves. They don't worry if their drawing looks perfect, if their dance moves are graceful, or if their story makes sense. They play because it feels alive. And that aliveness is something many of us lost when pride was denied to us. So what happens when we allow ourselves to play again? We loosen the grip of shame. We remind ourselves that joy can exist without permission. And we reconnect with the most natural part of who we are, the part that laughs, explores, and creates without fear of being too much. I want you to choose one playful activity this week. It could be doodling on a piece of paper, moving your body to music, building something with your hands, singing out loud, or even just trying something new for the fun of it. The rule is simple. You don't have to be good at it. The goal is not performance. It's freedom. After you play, take a moment to ask yourself, how did I feel before, during, and after? Write it down. Notice the shift. You may find that play brings a spark of lightness, or even stirs up resistance. Both are signs that something is moving inside you. Carl Jung also said, "In every adult there lurks a child, an eternal child, something that is always becoming, is never completed, and calls for unceasing care, attention, and education. That eternal child in you longs for play, and when you give it space, you are telling that child, you are free to live again. Play is not a distraction from healing. It is healing. It teaches us to trust our impulses, to laugh at our mistakes, to explore without shame. And slowly, it rebuilds the bridge to joy. So if you've been carrying the weight of seriousness for too long, consider this your permission to set it down, even for a few minutes. Give yourself the gift of play, because in play, your inner child breathes again. Chapter 8. Building an environment where joy can thrive. You've probably noticed how your surroundings affect your mood. A cluttered, heavy space can make you feel restless or drained. A warm, inviting space can make you feel calm and open. This is not just about aesthetics. It's about energy, memory, and permission. If we want joy to take root in our lives, we need to create an environment where joy feels at home. Carl Jung once wrote, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you." In the same way, our environment asks us how to feel. And if we are not intentional, it will decide for us. So let's get intentional. Let's ask, what kind of environment allows my joy to thrive? Think about your physical space. Do you have even a small corner where you feel free to celebrate yourself? Maybe it's a chair by the window, a desk, or a shelf. Consider placing objects there that remind you of joy and pride. A photograph, a drawing, a stone from a meaningful walk, or even your pride journal. Let that space be a shrine, not to perfection, but to the parts of you that are coming alive again. Choose one small area of your space, a corner, a shelf, even just your bedside table. clear it, clean it, and place at least one object there that symbolizes joy for you. It doesn't have to be fancy. What matters is that every time you see it, it whispers, "Your pride is welcome here." Now think about your sensory environment. Music, light, and even scent can anchor joy. Maybe you play a song that makes you smile every morning. Maybe you open the window for fresh air and sunlight. Maybe you light a candle as a signal to pause and honor yourself. These small choices turn the ordinary into a ritual of belonging. Beyond the physical, consider the environment of voices around you. Some conversations nurture joy, while others suffocate it. Notice which people encourage you to celebrate yourself and which ones pull you back into hiding. You don't have to make big, dramatic changes, but you can make dull, conscious choices about who you share your pride with. Even choosing one person who feels safe can transform the experience of celebrating yourself. Ask yourself, where in my current environment do I feel most alive? And where do I feel small? Write down one change, just one, that would make your space more joyful. It could be as simple as decluttering a corner, or as meaningful as introducing a new ritual object. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And becoming who you truly are requires spaces where you can unfold without shrinking. Your environment is not just background. It is a partner in your healing. So give yourself permission to shape it with care. Even the smallest shift, a chosen object, a cleared corner, a meaningful song, becomes a signal to your inner child. There is room for your joy here. There is room for your pride here. And when your environment supports your healing, joy no longer feels like a visitor. It becomes a resident. It belongs. Chapter 9. Carrying pride into the future self. Up until now, we've been talking about reclaiming pride and joy in the present moment. But there's another dimension to this healing journey, and it has to do with who you are becoming. Because every small act of reclaiming pride today is shaping the future version of you, the self who no longer hides, the self who lives fully. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This choice, to celebrate your joy instead of silencing it, to honor your pride instead of denying it, this choice is creating a new future self. Take a moment to imagine that future version of you. The you who no longer apologizes for joy. The you who speaks about achievements without shrinking. The you who allows yourself to laugh freely, to play freely, to create freely. What do they look like? How do they carry themselves? How do they move through the world? Close your eyes for a moment and picture that future self. Imagine walking up to them and asking, "What wisdom do you want to share with me today?" Notice what comes up. Maybe it's a feeling, a word, an image. Don't force it. Just let it arrive. Then write it down. This wisdom belongs to you, because that future self is already within you, waiting to be lived into. Think about how different life will feel when pride becomes natural again. Instead of questioning whether joy is allowed, you'll simply live it. Instead of second-guessing your worth, you'll carry it quietly, confidently. This is not arrogance. This is integration. This is what it means to become whole. Carl Jung also said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." By looking inward, by listening to your inner child and to your future self, you are awakening. You are bridging the gap between the wounds of the past and the possibilities of the future. Ask yourself, if my future self could look back at me now, what would they thank me for? Maybe they'd thank you for keeping a pride journal, or for finally saying, "I'm proud," out loud. Maybe they'd thank you for playing, or for changing just one corner of your environment. Write it down. Let yourself feel the gratitude coming from that future self. Because every time you choose joy, you are building that version of you. Every time you reclaim pride, you are stepping into them. And slowly, you will find that what once felt like a distant vision is becoming your lived reality. This is the path of healing. This is the path of becoming. And the future self you imagined is simply the fullest, truest version of you, waiting patiently for you to catch up. Chapter 10. The slow work of healing. There's a truth we often forget when we start the work of healing. It does not happen all at once. It doesn't come in a lightning strike or a single moment of clarity that fixes everything. Healing is slow work. And that slowness can feel frustrating, especially when you've carried pain for so long and you finally just want to be free of it. Carl Jung once said, "Nothing happens until the soul is ready." That readiness comes in layers, not leaps. Some days, you will feel joy rush in easily. You will celebrate yourself without hesitation, and it will feel like something inside you is finally alive again. But other days, shame will return like an old ghost, whispering familiar messages. Don't get too comfortable. Don't draw attention. Don't be proud. On those days, it's easy to think you're moving backward. But you're not. Those moments are not failures. They are part of the process. Healing is not a straight line. It is a spiral. Each time you meet shame again, you meet it with a little more awareness, a little more strength, and a little more compassion than before. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't plant one seed and expect fruit the next morning. You water it. You nurture it. You wait through days when nothing seems to be happening. You protect what is fragile until it is strong enough to grow on its own. The slowness is not wasted time. The slowness is where the roots form. The next time you feel impatient with yourself, pause, take a deep breath, and gently place your hand on your chest. Whisper to yourself, "This is part of it." Healing takes time. Notice how your body softens when you say those words. Write that phrase somewhere visible. A sticky note on your mirror, a card in your journal, even a reminder on your phone. Let it become a mantra you return to whenever the impatience rises. Carl Jung also said, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it." Accepting the slowness of healing is itself an act of healing. When you stop fighting the pace, you allow yourself to breathe. You give your inner child the space it always needed, the space to grow without pressure, to unfold without deadlines. Ask yourself, what's one gentle way I can show patience to myself this week? Maybe it's allowing yourself to rest instead of pushing through exhaustion. Maybe it's lowering the pressure to be perfect in a project. Maybe it's simply noticing a small win and saying, "That's enough for today." Healing in this way is not about grand gestures. It's about consistency. Imagine if every day you watered one seed of pride, one sentence in a journal, one moment of pause to celebrate, one kind word spoken to yourself. At first, it may seem like nothing is happening. But look back after a month, after a year, and you will see an entirely new landscape. The slow work is the deep work, and the deep work is what lasts. So instead of asking yourself, "Why am I not healed yet?" begin asking, "What small step of joy can I honor today?" That question will free you from perfection and bring you back to presence, because every small act adds up. Every seed matters. Every moment of pride and joy brings you closer to wholeness. Carl Jung reminded us, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Becoming who you truly are doesn't happen overnight. It happens in these small, steady choices to keep showing up for yourself. It happens in the patience to let healing move at its own pace. And in time, the child within you will come to trust that this time the joy will stay. This time, the pride will last. This time, they don't have to go back into hiding. The child within you is still here, listening. And every time you celebrate yourself, every time you say, "I'm proud of this," every time you allow joy to breathe, that child feels a little safer. That child learns. It's different now. I don't have to hide anymore. So as we close, I invite you to pause for one final reflection. Place your hand gently on your heart. Take a deep breath and whisper to yourself, "I am proud of who I am becoming." Let those words land. Let them echo, because they are true. I hope this video was helpful. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts or experiences. Thanks for watching.